Hey guys, so in this video, I want to share a little bit about my transition from being an employee, a full-time employee, to starting my own company on the side, and then eventually going full-time with my bookkeeping business. And I get a lot of people that ask me about it, like how did I do it, how did I approach it? And so in this video, I'm going to kind of walk you through my story from beginning to end, and how you can maybe do it yourself if you're currently an employee. So guys, just going back to the beginning, I graduated with an accounting degree. I went into the workforce doing taxes, and I thought that taxes were were the best way for me to make the most amount of money. And I went into the tax firm, and I worked at 3 different tax firms. One of them was KPMG, but then the last one, the one right before I left, was a company in New Jersey. It was like a very small CPA firm, and they had maybe 50 employees. And I had worked there for about 3 years, and in my third year, I had been going on maybe 7 years of total accounting experience. But in my third year of being at that firm, I started to feel like my career was starting to plateau. Like I was a senior accountant. I was making about $80,000 a year, and I just didn't see a lot of potential. There was the vision, the dream of being partner one day, but I looked at the partners and I'm like, I don't want to be like them. They're stressed out of their minds. They're working till 11 o'clock at night. They're coming in at 6 in the morning. They're meeting with clients. They're angry at everybody. And I knew that wasn't the life for me, and I knew I had to get out of the tax space. And so the question was, how do I do that? How do I become self-employed while working and providing for my family? Because I was married. I am married. I think I just only had 1 kid at the time when I was working there. But I didn't want to just quit my job and start a bookkeeping business. I wanted to kind of phase in and phase out of my employee job. And so what I did, guys, was something that I haven't heard from very many people. Was I decided to phase out. And it didn't happen, like it wasn't my plan all along. It kind of just organically happened. I was really confident as an employee, not because I was super good at my job, but because where I was super understaffed. They needed me for tax work. They needed me for a few clients that I was working on, doing special projects. And I had a good relationship with my employer. And so, I knew that they needed me, and I knew I had a little bit of leverage. And so just going back to the very beginning, I started the side gig, my bookkeeping business. I didn't have any clients, but I blocked all the partners at the firm, all my coworkers. I blocked as many people as I could find. Again, there were only like 50 people at this company, but I went in and I blocked everybody that I could. And I went hard on social media. I created a website. I got really excited about it, but nobody knew. And it was kind of fun. I was working full time, and like it was fun to be undercover in that way. You feel like you're being a little sneaky, but really everything I was doing was fine. Everything in the employee handbook, or nothing in the employee handbook stated that I couldn't start a side gig. So I knew I was allowed to do this. But about a couple months in, I get called into my employer's office, one of the partner's office, and I come in and I see on his computer screen my website. He had pulled up my Winona Bookkeeping website, and he said, and they were like, it was 2 of the partners were in there, and he was like, "What is this? What is Winona Bookkeeping?" And instantly my heart sank, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, they just found me out." And I knew it was legal, like I knew I was allowed to do it, but my personality, like I hate confrontation. I hate difficult conversations. And so as soon as I walked in there, I just started to like tremble a little bit. And I knew that they had caught me. And apparently there was one person I had forgotten to block on social media. And of course it was one of the partners. Like, what am I doing? And he found out about my bookkeeping business. And I shrugged it off. I shrugged it off, and I said, well, it's just a fun little hobby I'm doing on the side. You don't need to worry about it. My wife's doing a lot of the work, which at the time she was doing some of the bookkeeping work because she was looking for something to do. And they were like, okay, as long as it doesn't take away from your full-time job, that's fine. And I was like, phew, okay, I think I'm okay. I think I'm in the clear. Like they know about it, but it's not the end of the world. But from that point on, I had to prove that like it wasn't taking away from my full-time job. So I had to work hard. I didn't work on my side gig during business hours, during my like employee hours. I wanted to be honest about like the time that I was spending. But a couple months after that, people stopped asking about it. There wasn't a lot of attention around it. But a couple of months after that, after I gotten a couple of bookkeeping clients, I think I had 3 bookkeeping clients, I felt like I needed more time to work on my business. Not that I needed the time to work on those clients, because I could get those done in the mornings and at nights, but I really wanted 1 full day on Friday to work on my bookkeeping business. And it wasn't necessarily the work, but it was advertising, marketing, meeting with potential clients, doing presentations at co-working companies. Those were the things that I wanted to do with that one day, because it's hard to run a business on the nights and weekends, because people, like business owners, they want to talk to you during the day. And so I went to my employer's office, and again, guys, I tremble. I don't know why. Like when I have difficult conversations, I tremble. I try to like cross my arms and I try to like hide it a little bit, but it's unavoidable, and everyone I'm sure notices. But I go into my employer's office and I request to have one day off per week, every Friday, to work on my bookkeeping business. And when I said this, the partners in the office were shocked. They could not believe that I was actually pursuing a career in bookkeeping, and they shot it down right away. They almost laughed at me, and it was one of those moments where they were like kind of chuckling to themselves, like they couldn't believe that I was actually leaving a CPA firm to start a bookkeeping business. But it put a fire in me to prove them wrong. I already had that like chip on my shoulder because I was never very good in school. I was never very good as an employee. And so it was like that little chuckle that really put a fire underneath me, and I really wanted to prove them wrong. Because one of their main points was, you're not going to make any money in a bookkeeping business. You're just not. And they said that I had a future at that CPA firm to become a partner one day, and they really believed in me and blah, blah, blah. But after that meeting, they're like, we'll let you know. And it turns out they were fine with the one day because they knew they needed me. And I was able to work for a reduced salary. I took a pay cut to do 32 hours a week at the company. And we had agreed that during tax season, I would do 40 hours a week. And I agreed to that because I knew I was going to be busy during tax season. Anyway, I knew they were going to be busy, and I wanted to do my best to like kind of work with them on this. So I was working 32 hours a week, one day a week on my bookkeeping business, and it was going great. Like I had that one extra day was the most amazing thing. It was actually the best thing maybe I've ever done, in terms of like strategy, because it really opened me up to give my company more time. And it allowed me to build up a book of business, to find more clients. And so I did that. I worked 32 hours a week for the next like 6 or 7 months. And then after tax season, I approached them again and I said, listen, my bookkeeping business is doing really well, and I would like to have an additional 2 days off per week. And so I was basically requesting to work 16 hours a week. And I told them that obviously I would take a pay cut and you can pay me as a contractor instead of an employee. And I had done all the math in my head. At that point, I think I was making like $4,000 or $5,000 a month from my bookkeeping business, from the recurring revenue. And I knew it was enough to cover health insurance because I was originally receiving health insurance through my employer. And I knew that it would cover the lost pay I would lose from being an employee. And so guys, that was also a really hard conversation. I don't like having those conversations. And the hardest thing in working as an employee with a side gig is that eventually everybody finds out. And before you know it, I have partners taking me out to lunch, talking about the potential that they see in me. I actually had some of the partners came up to me and they wanted me to join forces with them. And these are the same partners that chuckled. They wanted me to basically run the bookkeeping wing of their firm. And so they were like, you can have Winona Bookkeeping under our company name, and we can give you support and staff, and we can give you whatever you need to just grow your business. And you can work under us or next to us. And at first I thought about it, but the whole point of me wanting to go out on my own was to be on my own. Like I really craved that self-employment life. And I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do. I didn't want anybody to tell me how hard to work or how fast to work. I didn't want anybody looking at my money. I didn't want people telling me how to do it. And so I shut that down. I was like, sorry guys, like I really want to do this on my own. And another thing too there, guys, is I was I was a senior accountant. And so there were like 3 additional positions above me. Typically at a tax firm, you have the staff accountant, then senior accountant, which was me, and then you have manager, senior manager, and then partner. And so I was pretty low level at that point. And so the idea of working with partners and being in charge of the bookkeeping wing, it was kind of intimidating, honestly. And I just wasn't ready for that. And maybe one day I'll be ready for that, but like at that time I wasn't, and I really believed in my bookkeeping business, that it was going to continue to grow at that pace. And so, guys, I worked for about 3 more months at 16 hours a week, and I saw the writing on the wall. Like, they weren't happy with the arrangement. I was coming in, I think, on Tuesday and Wednesdays, and I felt like everyone was looking at me when I'd come in because I wasn't a full-time employee anymore, and it just felt really strange. But I knew I needed that money in the beginning as basically like a way to start my business. And so I did that for the next 3 months, and eventually in November, so maybe it was more than 3 months, but in November, they came to me and they were like, hey, Jake, like we need you to make a decision. We need you to pick either your bookkeeping business or you can be an employee. And so at that point, I felt like I was ready. I had built up about $8,000 a month in bookkeeping revenue. And I decided to tell them right there and then that I was ready now, that I was ready to leave the employee life and to go full time with my business. So November 22nd, I believe, of 2022, I left the accounting firm to start my own business, and it was one of the best things I ever did. Now, it turns out that December of 2022 was my slowest month ever, and it really panicked me. And instead of trusting my gut, I decided to take a part-time tax job at another tax firm. And I worked like 8 hours a week for this CPA firm doing a couple tax returns. And I really didn't need the money because my business actually exploded in 2023 and I got a lot of new business. And so that's kind of a long-winded story, guys, but that's how I transitioned from being an employee to being self-employed. And if you're an employee right now, I would highly recommend doing it the way I did it, phasing out so you don't have to quit cold turkey. Now, maybe financially you're ready to quit cold turkey, but I felt like, and I still feel this way, that growing a business, especially a bookkeeping business, it takes time. Like you're not going to get 20 clients in 1 month. It's going to take, I mean, some people could do that. I'm sure I could have done things differently, but for me, I gained about 1 or 2 clients per month. And so by the second year, by like a year and a half, I had about 20 to 25 clients. And I think that's where you need to be. So maybe it won't take you a year and a half to do the transition, but if you, if you're an employee and you want to do this, like that's a great way to start a business. So hopefully that was helpful, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Please subscribe and like this video. It's really a big help. I appreciate everybody that's already subscribed and liked the previous videos, and we'll keep these videos rolling. All right. Thanks, guys.